in terms of the election. So you had unelected judges usurp the constitutional authority of state legislatures. That was an important debate to have. But unfortunately, we had people breach and engage in violence in the Capitol, so we couldn't have that debate. So now we get to the crux of really what they're trying to do to destroy me. It was after that breach, it was after the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump, that the Monday morning afterwards, we're back here in Wisconsin, I started hopping on some talk radio shows. And the first show was Jay Weber. And I was just talking about my impressions of the trial. And one of the things I said was that it resonated with me when President Trump's attorneys talked about, it doesn't seem like an accurate term to call what happened at the Capitol. As much as I condemned it, as much as I hated to see it because it cut off an important debate, and of course I hated the violence and the reprehensible racial slurs also, I condemned it at the time. But it didn't seem like an accurate description to call that an armed insurrection. I don't know, when I think of armed, I really do think of firearms. Now, it is true that left-wing rioters have shown the rest of us how to use flagpoles and other metal objects as weapons. Okay, and I don't discount the fact that that's also being armed. But again, I just said I didn't think armed insurrection was the right term, or correct term. That comment went national immediately. I mean, this is a local radio station, a pretty innocuous comment, a pretty accurate comment, and all of a sudden that thing goes national. I mean, what is that about? A week later, we actually have a hearing on January 6th. It's part of my committee. I'm on the committee, the committee I used to be chair of, but now it's run by Amy Klobuchar and Gary Peters, my former ranking member. The same guy, by the way, is falsely accusing me of disseminating Russian disinformation. So, in the record, during my 7 minutes of questioning, I inserted a very interesting eyewitness account by a very knowledgeable observer. This guy teaches political warfare at Fort Bragg. Okay, this is a knowledgeable observer. He actually went to witness what happened on January 6th, and he witnessed a lot more than he expected. But in that, he's talking about 4 different groups of people that didn't fit in with the crowds, the thousands of other, Trump protesters or Trump supporters. And so I just entered that in the record. I read excerpts. As soon as the hearing was over, Amy Klobuchar runs the microphones and says, "Here's Senator Johnson again, inserting conspiracy theories into a record." This is an eyewitness account of a knowledgeable observer. What's pulling off here? Why are they doing this? Well, the reason they are doing this is because they like the narrative. They like the narrative that there were thousands of armed protesters determined to overthrow the government. Because if there are thousands of armed insurrectionists in that crowd of Trump supporters, just by extension, you can pretty well assume that the 74 million Americans, the 74 million people that love this country, that value freedom, that appreciate the fact that Donald Trump, tormented unfairly by the press for 4 years, fought back, that those 74 million Americans are somehow now suspected domestic terrorists or potentially future armed insurrectionists themselves. So they maintained a double layer of 7 or 8 foot high fencing, concertina wire tipped fencing around the Capitol for a month or more, with 5,000 National Guard troops to protect the People's House, members of Congress from Trump supporters. So I'm about the only guy pushing back on a national level on that narrative. And so they go out to destroy me. To the point where the New York Times writes an article, and it says, "Assaulting the truth. Senator Johnson is out reducing reducing confidence in government." So, well, first of all, government doesn't need any help from me to reduce confidence in, do they? But yeah, I don't take this stuff personally. I know who I am, okay? This truthfully doesn't bother me, but, so I look at this rather clinically. It's pretty interesting, but it's also pretty disturbing what they're trying to do. And they will try and destroy anybody that gets in their way of accumulating all this power. Okay, so again, it's important. I'm trying to convey this to my colleagues who, and listen, I'm all for bipartisan effort and working with people that are trying to accomplish the same goal of keeping America safe, prosperous, and secure. Okay, and I'm all for that. But that's not what the Democrats are trying to do right now. Okay? So I'm afraid too many of my colleagues are still out there thinking it's 10, 20 years ago when it's not. This is a whole new time. The Democrats, the left, is trying to destroy conservatives politically. And so we have to recognize that.